Hello everybody, I'm Haneen Rayon and today I'm going to be doing a lesson over a book called Deep in the Sahara. So I'm going to start with a PowerPoint before we get started on the reading. So this book is called Deep in the Sahara and it's by Kelly Coonan and Huda Hadid. Those are both the authors for this book. So our learning targets for this lesson, it is a third grade level reading. And one of the learning targets is ask and answer questions to demonstrate understanding of a text, referring explicitly to the text as the basis for the answers. And then another learning target is recount stories, including fables, folktales, and myths. And so in our case, it would be a story from diverse cultures. Determine the central message, lesson, or moral and explain how is it conveyed through key details. And then our final learning target is determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in text, distinguishing literal from non-literal language. And so yeah, those are the three learning targets that I have for this lesson. So I wanted to start off, before we read, talking about the setting of the story. So as we know from the title, it's called Deep in the Sahara. So with that, we can kind of infer that the story is going to be somewhere in the Sahara Desert. So the story takes place in the Sahara Desert in Africa in a country called Mauritania, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it is going to be on the left coast of Africa. It's right there next to Mali and Morocco and Algeria. So that is the location, the setting for our story, Deep in the Sahara. Vocabulary words that I want to keep an eye out during this reading are going to be dunes, malafa, tradition, dates, and oasis. So those are 5 vocabulary words that we are going to be kind of keeping our ears peeled for during the reading. And before we read, we're going to think about is something that you know about the Sahara and what stands out to you just from the front cover of the book. So for reference, this is the front cover of the book that we are going to read. So those are the 2 questions that I just want to have everybody look out for while we are reading. So with that being said, we are going to start reading the story Deep in the Sahara. So here we have our story, Deep in the Sahara. So again, while we're reading, we want to look out for our vocabulary words that are dunes, malafa, tradition, dates, and oasis. And 2 questions that we are going to think about is what do we know about the Sahara and what is something that we can kind of inference from the front cover of the story. So with that being said, let's get started. So again, Deep in the Sahara. Deep in the Sahara, sky yellow with heat, rippled dunes slide and scorpions scuttle. In a pale pink house the shape of a tall cake, you watch Mama's malafa flutter as she prays. More than all the stars in the desert sky, you want a malafa so you can be beautiful too. When you tell Mama, she smiles. Lala, a malafa is more than beauty, she says, and her silver heels tick, tick, tick across the tiles. So that's Mama right there. Boys in turbans on donkeys go. Men in white bobo stroll. Your sister Selma is in a malafa glows. Nothing but dark eyes show. More than all the camels in the land, you want a malafa so you can be mysterious too. So this is Sister Selma. When you tell Selma, she laughs. A malafa is for more than mystery, she says, as her flip-flops flip across the sand. Women whisper in the corner, veiled head to toe in malafa, color of lime and mango, more than all the gold on a bride's crown. You want a malafa so you can be a lady too. When you tell cousin Aisha, she pats you on the head as if you're still a child. Lala, a malafa is more than being like us, she says, and saunters away with the woman through the dust. Trees of red flowers bloom with heat. Acai pods rattle and fruit bees sleep. Grandmother sits on the cushion to brew tea. Her malafa, the robe of ancient royalty. More than all the mint leaves sold in the market, you want a malafa so you can be like a long ago queen too. And that's Grandma with her tea. So we've already come across a few vocabulary words. Let's see if we can figure out the rest. When you tell Grandma, she hums. A malafa is more than just old tradition, she says, and gives you a glass to sip, minty and sweet with foam. Goats waggle home from tents for milking, and everywhere in the air is the evening call to prayer. Men hurry to mosques, and all the women to quiet places to pray, except you. Mama, you say, more than all the dates in the oasis, I want a malafa so I can pray like you do. So we've already come across some more vocabulary words. We have dates and oasis. Mama stops and looks at you. Then she gives you one nod. Good, she says, and gathers a malafa, slips it over your head, under your arm, round and round a malafa, as blue as the Sahara sky, as blue as the ink in the Quran, as blue as a stranger's eye. So that kind of really helps us understand what the word malafa means. Come, Mama says, and climbs the stairs as the round white sun is falling, and the mosques are calling. So you take a little step, and then another, up, up, little by little, your malafa rippling down your back, and your arms and your ankles like water. Bats fill the sky, the sun slowly dips behind the dunes. And now, standing on the roof, you understand. A malafa is for beauty. A malafa is for mystery. A malafa is for tradition and belonging. But even more, it's for something else. I know what your malafa is for, you tell Mama. A malafa is for faith. And together you face east, your malafa fluttering behind like wings. And that right there is the end of our story, Deep in the Sahara. So these are the vocabulary words that we came across in our reading: dunes, malafa, tradition, dates, and oasis. So with that being said, let's start looking at our vocabulary words. So our first word we came across was dune, and that's a mound or ridge of sand or other loose sediment formed by wind. And here is a picture of what that looks like for our vocabulary word. Our next vocabulary word was malafa, which we heard that word a lot in the story, and it is a colorful cloth worn over clothes and covering the head, worn by women in the country that we just read about. So here is a more realistic photo of what we read. And again, it's the colorful cloth. So if you look at their clothing, it's very colorful and exotic. Tradition, the transmission of customs or beliefs passed down from generation to generation. And tradition is, a lot of families have traditions. I know my family passes down a gold watch. So my great-great-grandfather had it. He passed it down to my grandfather. That passed it down to my dad. And my brother, who just turned 16, actually got the gold watch passed down to him. So that's something that my family passes down from generation to generation. Dates is a fruit that grows on these date palm trees. So if you look at the tree, the things that are hanging off of it right here, those are actually where the dates are, and then eventually they're ready to eat and they will look like this. So that is what a date is. Oasis, a fertile spot in the desert where water is found. So this is a good visual for what an oasis looks like. If you look around the oasis, there's just some trees that are probably date trees around there, and everything else is desert. And again, there's no other trees or anything else really too far out because the water is not reaching over there. So that is a oasis. So then after we read, let's think about the central message of the story. With that being said, the central message is really just talking about the Malafa and what it means in their faith. So in the story, the religion that they were talking about, if you guys didn't already know, was Islam, and it's just basically talking about just the religion and what the Malafa stands for in the religion. So that was like one of the key things in that story. The setting, we talked about that earlier. The setting was in the Sahara Desert, and again, the country we discussed is on the west coast of Africa. And then tradition in our family, that's just what I talked about, passing down the gold watch, and then a summary of the story is as well. So a post lesson that I would use for this book for a third grade level is just understanding the country, which I think is very important. It's important to understand the country and the setting of what you are reading, just to kind of put yourself in that sort of situation. So I was going to have these students color the flag of Mauritania, and this was like the shape of the country. And on the bottom, it's kind of hard to see, but it says it's located in northern Africa along the Atlantic Ocean. The color green is the flag. On the flag is the symbol of Islam, and the three countries that Mauritania mainly export to are Italy, Japan, and France. And that's just like a fun fact that is on there. And then I had this activity also for the students who are exceeding the learning target. It was to color and label the map of Africa, just to kind of get the students to get a better visual of Africa and kind of where it is and all the countries that are in Africa. Because again, the country that we read in Deep in the Sahara does not reflect all of the countries that are in Africa. So I feel like it's very important for them to kind of get a better visual of all the countries that are in Africa. And with that being said, that kind of wraps up our lesson, and I hope that you all learned something very new, as I know I did. Thanks.